Atlan gan cheese to cut you on. Ye go ʼáak one. Ja daade way you how to ʼatánk. Haa Dachx Sáani ya.áak. Daade, daade, haa satáaḳ ye. Wasa ʼatánk. Click the heen daste ya. You do a sago Ha ina kawanig. Ha jigis wududle yecha yuchatangi. Haa Dachx Sáani hasu jidigach ti. Ye awa hasu ya.áak. Daade ha yagux satáaḳ. Ha ye jine. Tu ushlit sin tin. Kone wujin yuchagach ʼatánk gitchinach. Awa yagach ʼaak. One qanin sa daade ʼatánk. Just like katun de tani team. Kunachawe ya. Achtun de tani kauke hits a team. Shingit yuchatangi daade we yutach tani. Kingi sti ha ina kawanik koa. Kesh ulti shingit. Kwa shingit yuchatangi team. Yuchaish atki. Awe achtuasuku kakachtu ʻaak. One qanins wooch kanach wutu daade. Kautu ʻaak. Gled qaqinach qakatu niki. Ya shingit. Shingit qinach qakatu niki. Gled qaqinach. Yep. Yutsu one qanins. You wasa do sago. You klakitsi. Klakitsa. Katratseoka. Ya you klakitsi kaya kajit yachti. Ka wede. Chakeka one qanins ye jitune. Ye away hatun de tani. Klak koa. Keka yake at. Konea ya nasita yagu. Ya nasita. Away. Daade gacht koch. Ya hasil ko hasani. Ade aya haste tusa adi. Ye wahatu wati to saku. Ye kwati yohan. Chish. Ito I guess a good thing get kainach shukwa. You khayet atki. Adat you khagachtu ʻaak let ka kainach.
I heard his day.
What did he say?
I do not know.
Kesh ulti shingit yuchatangi team wujin yuchatu atki. Yisikuge shidzi.
Not difficult.
Difficult. Kesh ulti.
Easy.
Shingit yuchatangi kesh ulti shingit yuchatangi team. Shingit is not difficult if you stay in Shingit. That's what he said to us all the time. And I know it's hard to get there, but I think I got that one from Norman James. We're talking about Tlingit grammar. And he said, Chu'oya achtundatani kam lechitsaqaywutin. It's Chu'oya. Do we know that one? Chu'oya.
I just looked at it, but I can't remember now.
Let me type it out. Hold on. Then we're going to get to our sentence translations. But one of the things I was thinking about, we had some conversations before class started, just a little check-in. But I was thinking a lot about just how we move back and forth between whole language and sort of partial language, and just being conscious of what the difference is with those. So like being in Tlingit and then also doing stuff where we're translating Tlingit sentences from English to Tlingit and then translating from Tlingit to English. It's really good work, but sometimes I think it's kind of a little bit awkward, right? And so like as we look at whole language stuff, these are some things I think that we want to think about is, here's the phrase, chu ya. Chu ya. Āak I'd say cowdlichis, but he said cumdlichis. So chu ya is a really neat phrase that I want us to know. Ya on its own is a verb which means to resemble something. It looks like something. So for example, if you saw some kind of animal and someone said daade, you'd say I don't know, but it looked like a rabbit. Ya.áak looked like a porpoise. Āak looked like a squirrel. But when you say ya, those two have a magic combination, and it means it's as if. So if I say ya, I'm letting you know I'm speaking in metaphor. So this is really important. So as soon as someone says this, it's like there's some kind of connection that's going to be coming. Okay? It is as if. Āak tundatani.
Is that my thought?
My thoughts. Cowdlihis.
Oh, whirlpool. Is that it?
Well, that'd be wooch.
No, I think I've heard a phrase that sounds similar, but it's
It
not
probably
the
is,
same.
yeah. So let's see. Let's go to the verb dictionary. And let's go this way. So we're going to go table of contents, link it to English, down to the X's. It's right there. Well, it's actually down here. So cowdlihits would be it is tangled. It's tangled. It's as if my thoughts got tangled. Do we know qewu?
Sounds really familiar.
A net.
Yes. So he said, it's as if my thoughts got tangled in a seine net. This was at the time, probably an 86, 87-year-old elder who spoke Tlingit very, very well. Incredible Tlingit speaker. And as we started talking about grammar, he got confused. So don't feel bad, like this confuses everybody. Tlingit is hard, Tlingit is fun, Tlingit is complicated, Tlingit is incredible. Yeah. And so as we're navigating the spot between English and Tlingit, our brains are going to get tired and confused. It's okay. It's okay. It's part of the process. The other thing I was talking about towards the beginning is daade ya haa yagux a'ánx'i Sáani I guess we're translating big sentences at first, and then we'll go back into our stuff. So, daade ya haa yagux Yes. Yeah. Haa Dachx. Sáani. Anything that we recognize in there.
Grandson.
Hmm?
Grandchildren?
Yeah, this is our when you say Haa Dachx, you're saying our little grandchildren, which is how you talk about our descendants, our future generations, the people many generations from now.
Jide, to hands.
Haji, yes, for us. Jide, to their possession. These folks right here.
ya.áak, like they said.
Yes. So ya.áak, they said to
Oh, to us.
To
to
us.
us. Right, so you can say Haa ya.áak, they said this to me. Haa ya.áak, they said this to us. Good. Haji yes wudud liyech.
This Yich is building or making.
Correct.
So we're making.
Well, you've got de right here. If we were building it, you'd say tushayich.
It was built.
And if we built it, you'd say wutushayich. But that's not tu, it's de.
So it was built for us.
Yes, our language was made for us. Haa Dachx Sáani jide gachtuti. Oh, there's a two. That's the two we were looking for in the last sentence.
Is that like ya.áak to t? Is that like from us or like will be?
Yes, we will.
I want to say like give it to.
Yes, we will give it to them. Good job. Susie is washing the dishes. Let's transition right in.
Smooth.
She's ceremoniously washing the dishes to give them to our grandchildren.
It was our grandparents who did it for us. We use Susie and Johnny for everything.
So this is related to last week's senses. There's on 7, it says Kaudlinik, and I was wondering why the SH is there.
So, yes. So if you say, that's a good question. If you were to say, these are two different things. Here's shkaitlenik and here's kaitlenik. These are different things. Does anybody have an idea of why these are different, what they might sort of be doing? They're both you. They're both talking about you did it. You did this, you did that.
The first one is got the reflexive sh, so it's together and then we have to have the D in front of it.
Yes,
Part of
but not together, it's to the self. So like, you might look at this in other verbs and say you told the story of yourself. But this is one that sort of overrides that rule. Which, like for example, you could say yisatin. How would I translate yisatin? You
all see it?
just one.
See.
Oh, you see.
You saw it or you see it. So then I could say shiyitzitin. This does shiyitzitin. Sorry, can't talk and type. This is a true reflexive. So if reflexive is the self, Now, how's this translate?
You saw yourself.
You saw yourself.
By yourself.
Or you could say you see yourself, right? This is one of those verbs where time doesn't matter. So this one, that's how most verbs would work, right? So you could heal yourself, you could talk to yourself, you could do all these different things. You technically could tell your own story. But this verb sort of overrides that and says this means you told stories. That's all it's saying you told a story, you told stories. The particular story does not matter, but it probably matters for this one. So kaixanik.
You told a story?
Is that the one where you tell yourself?
Told a specific story?
Yes, you told the story.
Us.
So it's some specific story. We could name it Cinderella, kaixanik. You told the story of Cinderella. Du shat. Du ʼáak. Ach. Shkaudechash. Her older sister cut off her own toes. I think that happened in the story, like not in the Disney version, but in like the old school version. Okay, so that's what the kaitlanik is doing there. So when you say shkaitlanik, you told a story. And the reason why it goes that way is it says, did you tell a story about hunting? As opposed to, did you tell the story about when we went hunting? Or if it's some specific story, that's when we would change it to kaitlanik. That's a good question.
But then it just doesn't have the D in there.
That SH means the D has to be turned. There's like a switch that you can activate in the classifier to turn that letter D on there. Question. Okay. Okay, autobiography would be chushdat shkautlanik. Or chushdat shkashnik. A story about the self. Which would, it happens, there's only a couple I know of in Tlingit. Elizabeth Nyman, she tells her own her autobiography. It's wonderful. I recorded George Davis telling his. I'll publish it someday. Okay. What y'all come up with, and what kinds of questions you got for Susie is washing the dishes?
Susie was ich ʻáak.
Okay.
ʻáak.
Sheesh. Any other variations?
Susie was S'eek, asu, usk.
S'eek, ya.áak, Susie.
Okay. Any others that are?
I got S'eek, Susie, ya.áak.
Okay. Sheesh. Here's how I might say it. Oh, was there another? Susie with S'eek ʻáak.
What does the ʻáak do?
So the first, this means a third person is washing a third, they are washing it. So once you have third person, that object marker turns into the letter A. The ka is the surface of something. So it's washing a table. That's how Tlingit usually thinks of dishes, because you wash the surface of them. Other things that you would just wash would be clothes, your hands, and stuff like that. And then that would drop, the K wouldn't be added on. So the K gets added. You can add a noun to a verb to make it a little bit more specific.
How does it, like kitchen sink is like S'eek.
This S'eek du usku yet.
So why is it du usku and not
Because
it's
there's kind of an optional W on here. which you're going to hear a lot of times.
But it's not ʼáak.
No.
Because it's not as flat.
Yeah, and so I think it just gets dropped there. Because it could be ʼatánk. But I think because maybe the hand washing sink got its name first, because ʼatánk. And then they're like, oh, just call it ʼatánk. And then if you're just talking about washing in general, you don't really need the ʼka on there.
Right. Oh, okay.
Right, and that's probably the other thing too, because you wash probably a bunch of things in the kitchen sink. So then it just generally gets the general washing verb.
Right. Oh.
If you
Yeah.
wanted to pluralize the dishes, would that be an underlined X?
Yes, but you wouldn't have to. And so you could say, if you want to say like she's washing a lot of dishes, sure, you could say Susie weighs and then if she's washing a bunch of little toy dishes, you could say Susie weighs Sáani, because they're just all these little dishes.
Little teapot set.
Yeah. Cute, but very difficult to wash.
Last semester, you were showing this thing where it had like how to make all the different versions of things, like the hua, and it would show the stuff after that. Do you know how I can find that again?
There's a couple different ones. There's a slideshow called Prefix Contraction Basics, which we'll probably look at. If we have time, I'll show it to you tonight. We might save that for Thursday. We'll jump ahead a little bit for Thursday. Then there's another one called the Conjugator, I think is what I called it, which I think I'm going to make into a little handbook. So you could just flip it open, and it's basically, so let me show you folks. Here's what the first one looks like. And the idea here is to walk you through all of these things to just show you like what they are and then what happens when they start encountering each other. Because we want to start thinking about the rules of conjugation, which is basically sound math, I guess. It's like when this thing makes this thing, that thing goes away, right? It's sort of like
Think it algebra.
yeah, and also think of dogs. Because we have a dog. We have two dogs. Before we got the second dog, the first dog was always just fine with everything. Once we get the second dog, the first dog will not eat if the other dog's around. And so we gotta like bring her out to the porch and be like, it's okay. And so, but this is kind of what happens. Like when these things come, some of them is like, I'll drop a vowel, I submit, right? So we have like an order of things, and we'll see that. Okay. And then I was on, this one's a little different. And so this one, and I'll put links to both of these slideshows up if you folks want to take a look at them. It doesn't matter if you don't understand everything that's in there. This is designed to be more like a quick reference guide to sort of, I think, yeah, to sort of show you what kinds of things are going to be in a prefix. And so this shows you, I think, every prefix combination, not thinking of objects, because the object is kind of outside. So changing the subject and going through all of the major modes. So when we say, like these are the modes you need to communicate, I think, to say is, isn't, was, wasn't, will be, won't, do it, don't do it. It's basically what we're doing. And there's different verbs in that, but those are the sort of major modes. And I think it also does hortative. But then it shows you what the prefix will be. So if we go scroll way down, we're looking at a hortative that's not conjugation. Like right here, you may have heard or said, nach to át, let's go. These are all of the things that are in there. Na, ka, t, and 0. And so it shows you what kinds of things are in there, and then it shows you what that prefix should be. The idea here is you look up any mode with any conjugation prefix and classifier combination. And it's designed to help you get there while you sort of figure out how to put those things together yourself.
Because I'm not allowed to bring food upstairs.
Does null become a in those bottom ones?
It'll become ya. If it, wait, what's your question again?
You see those nulls above do in the bottom? There's 2 nulls above do, and then next to there's.
Well, those are all, they just go away. There's nothing there.
I noticed like the pattern where the subject, the vowel in the subject will carry over to the prefix in some form, and it looks like the null ones become a.
So with t and with I, they have a similar rule. If there's a vowel in the classifier, they'll be short. T and I. If there's no vowel in the classifier, they will be long. There'll be tu and e. So that's what's causing that vowel to go long. Okay, back to Susie, wash dishes. Did you pick berries in Huna? I mean, did you pick berries in Huna?
Goodness sheesh, I feel seen.
Why are they changing it to Huna? Why are they? Okay, sorry. What'd you come up with?
Hello, or hello, again, click wine.
Hunat iwa inge.
Jeez.
No.
Oh, let's do that again. Sorry. Jeez.
Hunawu getlek wutuain.
Okay.
Kunak ge kuyaki klek.
Jeez. Any others? I would say Pieketke Hunag.
Had cool.
Explain, please.
What's that? Okay, this one is a bit of a trick question. Okay. Picking berries is very important in Tlingit. Like, it's a it's one of our. I was working with ʼáak Ruth Demmer, and they asked me to come up with some basketball phrases. And I said, this might sound dramatic, but and she's like, yeah, it's a bit much. So they're saying, basketball's our life. And so she said, basketball is our joy. I was like, oh, that's so nice. But berry picking is our life, okay? So because berry picking is important, it has 2 main verbs to talk about it. Well, there's a couple more, but there's 2 main ones. The first one is kuwaked. That verb means to pick berries. You can't say specific berries. You can't talk, it's just saying, let's go pick berries. We went to pick berries. I'm gonna pick berries. So if the sentence is saying, did you pick berries? You would have piyakit, which on its own would mean you picked berries. If you want to say, did you pick huckleberries? A'ánk in. And so that awa in is to pick. And it doesn't even mean pick berries. It means to fill a container with something. It will work for seaweed. It would work for medicines. It would work for berries. But that's saying, and this is a very tricky thing that a lot of intermediate and advanced students just sort of, the concept doesn't always land. So you'd say, kuakit, they picked berries. Specific berries would be ʼáak. So that's one of the big differences here, which it's a trick, it's a bit of a trick question, but it's something I hope you'll remember.
And I'm not sure which book I found it in, but it said that kuyaki was to pick in a quantity to take home.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what it means. And because there's another verb which means to remove the berry from the branch. And then there's another verb which means to eat the berries from the plant.
Sorry. I just found the verb dictionary. There's a verb for like shaking off the berries from the branch.
Yeah, so if you're picking soap berries, you can shake it, or you can, what that's would be like to hit the branch. And then, because to pick soap berries, you put like a big flat basket underneath it, and you hit the branches, and all the ripe berries fall off. And so, yeah.
So you did the imperfective form of the verb, did you not?
That is a perfective, second person. And so because what you have here is you have y, ya, and then kit. But there's a lot of things there, right? So ya. That's 4 things. So that's too many. So what happens is, well, there's a number of different things that happen, but and y and I in this case are becoming p. And it's a little bit tricky with that, because you would say, let me think of it. So I would say ya.áak. You tried. So ya.áak. So you have kit. You picked berries.
What would the imperfective be?
The imperfective? Okay.
Yeah, like how would it combine differently instead of being?
Yeah. So if we go here, so the way we can sort of piece some of these things together as if we're looking at it. So we'll go look up the verb just to see the components. And well, there's some things we got to look at. So once we're dealing with imperfectives, we got to go try and find an imperfective version of the verb just to see what the stem is going to be. So we'll go look up, here's keet, and here's, oh, someone must have been looking this up. So here's the imperfective. So if it's eat, it should be peak eat. So there's not the iya, because that's the classifier going plus I. So the classifier can't go plus I because it's an act verb, and if it's happening right now, it hasn't happened.
Okay.
So usually if it's going plus I, it's saying, yes, it did happen.
But the act verb, there is really no perfective?
So for an act verb, there's a perfective, there's an imperfective. The imperfective must be minus I because it's happening. So you can't say it happened because it's happening.
Right.
So it's like Tlingit likes to use the plus I to say like it's completed, or the act sort of did happen. So if it's still happening now for Tlingit, they're like, they ain't done yet. Keep picking. And so once you see this, so here's kukit. How can I move that around? So there's okay. We gotta go look up something else. So there is the verbal structure handbook. And in the verbal structure handbook, there's a set of verbal prefixes. And so this section I've pulled out from James Crippen's wonderful verbal structure handbook. And so this shows you perfectives. So it's a little complicated, but here's it. It's right here. And this means capital C means consonant. So that could be ya, kia, pia, tia. Gets a little what? Because the U sound will drop. But what we're looking for, so here's a future. So these are all futures. We're looking for right here. It's a zero classifier. It has this CV means there's a thematic prefix on there. Could be ka, t, k, ya. And in this case, it's k. And we come down here, second person singular, capital C, E, E. So that means the prefix should be P. Eat. You are picking berries right now.
Where does this file live? Is that under the curriculum?
It is, but I'll put it on our class page for tonight's class under handouts. It's very handy to have, but it's a little scientific or a little mathematical. I don't know.
Looks like like you would find this in the alien spaceship, and it's like we have to decode this.
Yeah, it's your Tlingit decoder ring right here. Okay. We are cooking for the ʼáak tomorrow.
Wait,
I have-
Okay, go. You're going first. Go ahead.
Okay. Wees ganen ku'ich has du at tusat I.
Oh, jeez.
Weku'i yis'akachus tusa'i siganin.
Jeez. Any other variants?
I had
At tua'i ku'ich yagux seganin.
Jeez.
Couldn't hear if that was said already or not.
Ku'ich segan kayis at tusai.
Jeez. Harper?
Oh, yeah, I had at atusa I iswe kui seganen.
Jeez. Any others?
So I had a question about this. Is the ku'ich tomorrow?
Say it again.
So is the ku'ich tomorrow, or are we cooking tomorrow?
Oh. I think we're cooking tomorrow. But you cook at the ʼáak. So it would be both.
Yeah, I was definitely writing that thinking you're cooking at the ʼáak tomorrow because you cook for ʼáak at the ʼáak. Goodness trees. I realized maybe not everyone would have the background for that.
I honestly thought you brought like pre-prepared food or something. Like
Oh, yeah. No, that's a really good question. Because at a ʼáak, the food is made on site. So you need to, ʼáak is, but there are times where there's a ʼáak, like maybe at the clan house in Wrangell or something, and maybe you have to bring the food in or do something. But usually these are hosted at like A&B halls or things like that where there is a commercial kitchen and you're hiring people to come in and cook the meal while everything is going on. Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay. I would say it probably this way. And there are ʼáak here. So you could say ʼatánk seqanan weku'ik seqanan ku'ik ʼatánk. So you do have three parts in there. Weku'ik ʻatánk and seqanan. Okay. I cut the fish last night.
and nistat wechat wachash.
Sheesh.
فتتكي نستات خط كخ وخش.
Sheesh. Any others?
Nistat kat katkahash.
Sheesh. So I would probably say wechat chwachash nistat. And you could say nistat, chwachash, wechat. So you do, again, we got three things there.
So you only need like the nistat for.
Yeah, you don't need tatke nistat.
Alright.
But it would, you could say tatke tutat. But yeah, nistat is sort of like, take it just says last night. So that, because it's specific to a time already, it doesn't need the day.
Could you also do kahwahash?
It would be, I cut it into pieces. So yes, that would be fine. And so I think if we said chwachash, however we wanted it cut, that's how I cut it. So like, and that would include cutting the head off and the fins and the, gutting it and stuff. Although there is, if you're gutting it on its own, it has its own verb. Means to remove the guts of a fish. You can't use that verb for mammals. But then, yeah, if you say kachwachash would mean I cut it into pieces.
If it's helpful for you all, when I write these sentences, I look up the verb in the verb dictionary. If it gets real specific, I get more specific. And so I did look up all the other things for cutting, and so I'm not trying to make them trick questions for y'all. So if there is a more specific verb, it'll be in there, and I am trying to use verbs that you've been introduced to in either hawusinehi, hayuqtangi, or shinkekone, on and on and on. The rest of the title of that book, the beginning Shinket book. Okay, this makes me feel better.
I don't know. Whatever it's called.
What does the ʼáak mean for the berry picking?
You picked berries. But if you say did you pick berries?
Also for the, is there like a verb root to that one? Like what?
Eat. It means to move something in masses.
Well,
do you want to buy it?
Atgagiu ye tu watige.
Jeez.
Ituasuke at ya.áak.
Jeez. Any other suggestions, attempts, variations?
I had some questions about how to turn by into an infinitive, but I'm assuming we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
I have ituasuguge kagiu.
Okay.
Okay, I got ya.áak get ituasugu.
Jeez. Any others?
I couldn't decide whether to do tuwasigu or ituati.
I think either
I
one.
put both.
Asking if you want it, I'd probably say tuasagu. To a T, yeah. Get it to a T. That would work too. I think either one would be fine. But if I were to say it, did I do the second verb right? No. Ituagesagu kaki'u.
I put an I at the end of, I put a YI at the end of ituati because I wanted to connect it to the gagi'u. Would that be necessary, or would that be?
That would be, it would go the other way.
It would go the other way.
Yeah, so that's the main verb, and then the other one's the dependent verb. So the dependent verb is like, if it's like, do you want to, then the wanting is the main verb, and then the other one gets the suffix.
All right.
And I would probably say it this way because you haven't bought it yet. So I would put it in the future. Do you want in the future to buy it? And this is how Lingi kind of ties two verbs together. Is one of them becomes relational, which we call a dependent clause. It's a dependent verb. And so it sort of follows these general patterns, which is if it's perfective, it looks like a negative perfective with a suffix. And if it's a future, it looks like a regular future with the suffix.
I had gagi'uwu. What's the difference between gagi'uwu and kgi'uwu?
Yeah, good question. So it's gagi'u. That is what it is, gagi'u. But if the word before it, so I would say I, tu, wa, segu, these vowels affect the prefix. So if vowels come before it, the prefix like, now I gotta contract. So what happens, that letter A gets knocked out. And that letter A gets knocked out. This G turns into a K, which is probably what it was to begin with, but that's getting too theoretical. Ituasagu kaki'u, which is a weird thing to say. You want to buy it. It's getting a little too bossy for Lingi, but you could say it. But that's, so yeah, it is gaqi'u, but if a vowel comes before it, it will push that contraction to happen. And this also happens with, so like kuka would be the first person, kuka'u. But if there's a vowel before it, it will switch to kukwa. Oops. Same thing. And then kuka will become kukwa. Any other questions?
So on ituasagu kagi'u, did the underline disappear for a reason, or is that a typo?
Where?
The one under the highlighted one.
Oh, oops. Yeah, that was typo. Thank you.
Okay.
Cheese. What are you working on there?
Daade daine wedu.
Cheese. Okay.
Yeah. Dasue daine.
That's the way, ine.
Dasa ye jine awe.
This dot at I cut the fish last night. Is that like the dot for like telling something.
Nistat is last night, but it's probably related to taat, which is nighttime, which is probably in tatke, yesterday. Any other variations on that one? There's probably different ways to handle the there part, but this is one of those situations where you kind of have to know where they are to know which one to use. Because if you're right there, then it would be wake. But if I'm on the phone and I know you're far away, it'd be you, and it could just be ah. So I think I put you far away. What you working on way over there? I don't know. Your little tiny thing working way over there. It could be way, could be ya.áak.
Does that verb require have that directional suffix on the end?
No, it's just the you, like you are located.
Yeah, what's the you?
Oh, this way. Okay.
It's the word there, and I was trying to get you all to use sense of space. I would say if I meant way over there, I would have put way over there.
Yeah. So this would probably be way. I just thought of someone far away. You were far away from me when I thought of this sentence. That's all. Because I was in my office. I knew you weren't there. I couldn't see you anywhere. So you had to be you. And so, but it's a situational thing. But when you say ya, he, we, you, right? Right here, kind of nearby, over there, way over there. All of those could be ya.áak, he, we, you. And that just means it's at rest somewhere. Because if you're working on something, you're kind of situated there. So I would use that one. But that's if I can see.
Why is it with you versus dasa you? ya.áak.
Well, okay, that's a good question. Daade means what is that way over there? So if I were to say it, that means I don't know what you are. Now the question is like, what? If I said
Dasa you
that
ya.áak.
would mean what is it that you are working on way over there? Because daade is what is that way over there? So now the question isn't. It's slightly different, I guess. Those might be similar things. Daade.
Shades of nuance.
ya.áak. I think either of them would work.
Okay.
But if I were just
Where
saying
where does the da come from for daade?
yeah, that's a good question. So like when we get to there's these two very closely related verbs that are really kind of doing very, very similar things. So we go down to the ne verb, which is probably already open. And so there's this one, which is to work on this thing. So I mean, especially like right now, if someone is working on something, this is the verb to use. But then this one is more about just working. So you have to push it. So you say, and it's really interesting. Just pay attention to the way people are using this one, because they'll say adayeche. Working on your language, right? But you could say ʼatánk ya.áak. I guess for me, this one has more to do with preparing something, like, that's a good question. But if I see you and you're working on something and I'm asking about what you're working on, I would just use this one right here. Because the da is built into it. So like you're working around it. You're doing some specific action to it. This one is just generally working. So this doesn't need to have, like, there's nothing that you're working on. You just say, I'm working. But if I'm working on something, then you have this, because it has the object built in there. So that's probably the big difference. But I think this one does not have a perfective form. So this is kind of a funky one too, because if you say, so here it is, like, ye da ine, you are working on it. But you wouldn't say ye da iwune, but instead you would switch it to this verb right here, which would be ye yisene, or ye yisene. You worked on it. You fixed it.
Would you say yan yisne if you like totally fix it? Like, is there like a kind not finished fix it?
Yan yisene would be you got it ready. And those, yeah, so the more we sling it, the more we'll find there's some of these areas where there's these very fine differences between these things. They all wrote about seals.
Daade kawushchit.
Sheesh.
S'eek kashchit.
Sheesh.
Daade kawushchit.
Sheesh.
I had a question about hafsa akaushi, because I wasn't sure with the object and how all of that stuff worked. So I had a couple of options on this one.
Yeah, because when you say ʼáak, you're saying they wrote it. But that wouldn't mean the seals is what they wrote. Like the it part would be like the words or the book or the picture.
Yep.
So then you would have usually noun dot ʼáak is what we would end up with.
That was my other option.
Yeah, it becomes an indirect object. And this one, like if you said, for example, sa dot āak, they told about the seal. Or if you had said satáaḳ, it gets a little funky. Because now it sounds like you told on the seal, like you tattled on it. Seal's coming for you now. It's gonna bite you.
I don't know. I work with a lot of preschoolers. I could see this happening.
Yeah, okay. Someday my kids will watch these classes. One time I said to one of my kids, I said, because they're tattling on each other, and I said, which means I don't want no tattletale. And they said, I'm not tattling, but he did this. I was like, Kindikaduniki, it's tattletale. Okay, they wrote about seals. We got 4 minutes, so I'm going to go a little fast on this. Sa'adat hasakaushikit. Where will you drive to?
Gudesa iguch asakuch.
Gudesa kagi kuch. Kuch.
Udesa yade na kuk.
Sheesh. Any others? Gudesak kuch. So with the S classifier, it would be like, where are you transporting that to? Where are you driving it to? A person or a thing? You have some sort of package that you're delivering or something like that. And then this is another one. It would be gaqikuch, but that sa causes the contraction to qaqikuch. I will, or I'm drumming later at school, which could also be I will be drumming later at school.
Ziyagan skunk. Gay kakwagwas.
Gee.
Diagan skunu kikwagas.
Ziagan skunt galke chak guaguash.
Jeez.
Siyagan skunk kadagwash.
Okay. I would probably say Gao, cake, wooch, ya.áak, and skoon. But there's 4 things. So there's Gao, cake, wooch, which I wouldn't separate those words. ya.áak and skoon. So there's 3 things you could. Skoon. Well, I like this word order myself. I have heard, okay, so for skoon, there shouldn't be a verb if you're using Once you start using a verb, you need to switch your suffix. I have heard speakers use those w or suffixes with verbs, but it's very uncommon. I think it's usually not the way to do it.
So why not zagen at then?
S'eek could be fine. That's fine.
You just like it.
I guess I like it, yeah. Because for me, the fact that I'm drumming is the most important thing. And then that is going to be a little bit later is the next important thing. And then it's going to be at school. It's the least. So for me, it's just like what was most important in my mind when I thought of that sentence. But it could depend if someone's like, where will you be drumming later? Skoon. And so, but if I were just to translate that sentence on its own, I usually think of like, what do I need to do? When is it going to happen? Where's it going to be?
That's very useful.
Where did they all go? That's a nice sentence to end on. So then you all will go somewhere.
Gudesa has ua.
At Gude Soe Hasmugu.
Utsahas kwagu.
Any others?
Vaguely like that.
So, before we reveal this last one, we might at some point in this semester implement the table. That means everyone will have to give their answer as we go in a specific order. It's like we'll all be sitting at a table. We'll all get to pick a little character and put it together. And then I will hear everybody's sentences in a particular order. But We'll see. For now, I kind of like the. It's not like an open mic. It's not in popcorn, because popcorn you're calling somebody. It's just like
I'll call on people for you.
what you took. It just blows up. Godesa hasbu art. Where did they all go?
What?
Do you not need the? Oh, because it's not a third.
Once you got hus, it goes to art. Because this is a little more than you needed to know thing, because it's day, it's woo art. Because that's a n conjugation motion. If you want to say where did they arrive at, you would say gut sa has ua at. That's a zero conjugation. Neshke has ua at. Did they go inside? Did they come inside? We're out of time and out of energy and out of brain power.
Can you repeat again how day pushes it to wooat? I was trying to take notes and my family is talking in the background and my brain misfired before I got it written down.
Quiet, family. I'm just kidding. So here are your major n conjugation motion suffixes. Day, dach, nach. Those will be n conjugation motion. Okay? These are your two major forms of motion. You can have upward and downward. You'll certainly have that. But these are by far the most common. So this would be ending with the letter T, like hot, nicht. So the letter T, nicht, ye. Hit ye uat. And I would also add at on here. So you can have ga and you can have qa. These are generally upwards and downwards. Like they say they went up the mountain, they went down the mountain. But what gets funky is this one is also like if you say yagux, that means start walking. Just without any particular direction. And same with like, start driving. And so we use this for ya.áak, because as teachers of young children, we were instructed that it's better to say what to do than what not to do. So instead of telling them not to run, we would say ya.áak, ya.áak. Okay, that's it. Good job, everybody. Sheesh. Yagux. Godesa hasbu art.